To the concerned viewer, in this video I talk about conjugation, which requires me to discuss the concept of subject pronouns. However, in the video itself, I say indirect object pronoun instead of subject pronoun. Please do not be fooled. I should be talking about subject pronouns. I'll discuss indirect object pronouns in a lesson on reflexive verbs, but we don't have to worry about that right now. I am actually currently working to remake the video and correct all of the errors. Just be cautious that whenever I say indirect object pronoun, I do mean subject pronoun. Thank you, and enjoy the lesson.
What is conjugation? I mean, changing verb forms, the English language doesn't do that, but actually, it kind of does. Changing verb forms depending on an indirect object pronoun may sound foreign, but it's high time we recognize that English does in fact conjugate verbs. Kind of. Take, for instance, the following verb phrases. I run, he runs, they all run. The fact of the matter is that verbs in English don't require all that much conjugation. I mean, I just added an S in an IOP and created 3 separate clauses. This is why regular present tense conjugation in Spanish can be so difficult for people. It's because the changes that we see in English are so subtle and we don't recognize them because we don't learn about conjugation in class. Before we learn about changing the verbs in Spanish themselves, we have to learn a little bit about
subject pronouns.
What are they and why are they so important? So let's go over to the slides for that one.
When we look at conjugation, we first need to explore this concept of
Subject pronouns.
And what that basically is a person or object that is doing the verb. If you think back to the example that I used earlier, I run, I am doing the action, I am running. Therefore, I is an
Subject pronoun.
In Spanish, indirect object pronouns present themselves in forms like yo, ella, él, nosotros, and actually all of these are indirect object pronouns. And it seems a little bit daunting until you look at their translations in English. I would highly recommend memorizing these translations. They're very important, and we're going to use them heavily when conjugating verbs. The only thing that's a little bit different here from the indirect object pronouns we use in English is this concept of a formal third-person pronoun, usted y ustedes, down here. Usted is going to be one of our third-person indirect object pronouns, singular and plural, and it's used as a form of you. So instead of using tú, I could use usted to refer to somebody who is more formal or has more authority than I do. If I were to refer to my professor, I would use usted. If I was to refer to a group of politicians, I would use ustedes, because I don't know them personally.
Because there are so many indirect object pronouns in Spanish, and because we want to avoid having 10 different conjugations per tense, per verb, we actually group these indirect object pronouns into conjugation groups, sort of, based on their point of view. So here we have yo, and you should have these memorized, meaning I, and that's your first person tense. Tú, which is you, and that's your second person tense. Él, ella, y usted, he, she, and you, formally. That's your third person singular tense. Nosotros, which is we. Vosotros, which means sort of like you all, and it's only used in Spain. And ellos, ellas, y ustedes. They feminine, and you all formally. That's going to be your third person plural form. And there's going to be a different ending for each of the conjugations for each of these point of views of these conjugation groups. That's going to wrap up our brief overview of indirect object pronouns. I hope this helped a little bit, and in the next video, we're going to dive into digesting conjugations and infinitives. It's going to be really fun, and I hope you will join me.